So John Ellis is our next speaker, and John will tell you he professes he's not a car guy, but he certainly knows cars. He's a software expert, and Todd mentioned that about the software engineering and integrating the hardware, integrating the firmware, and integrating mechanical devices to become more, let's say, electronic functioning, and a lot of that replacement is going on in the vehicle. John lives at the heart of that. John had his own consulting company for quite a few years, and that's why Ford went looking for him because, again, as Todd just showed, getting new players to come into the industry. Detroit doesn't know it all. Maybe Silicon Valley doesn't know it all, but coming together and adding them together really does. So please welcome John Ellis.
We all agreed that we were going to do 7 minutes each.
Yeah.
That means I got like 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to...
Take your time. Take your time, John.
No. Yeah, I'm not a car guy. I'm a software guy, and I work at Ford. Thank you very much. I'll take questions and answers now. How about that? I got really quickly some disclaimers. Number one, everything you hear and what you see here has nothing to do with Ford Motor Company. It's my words only. I do work at Ford. I mean, it's not that they don't back it, but this is my version of my forward-looking statement. It's me and me alone. If you don't ask questions, I can't give answers. And last but not least, there's probably all rights are reserved, but there's a lot of wrongs, tons of wrongs, and I'm paying $1 each if you find them. So really quickly, who am I? I'm never disrespectful. I'm always irreverent. These are some quotes that I've introduced to my team at Ford over the last 2 years. It just works. Guys, we build shit. It just works. That's the goal. Before Siri, there was Sync. Let's return back to the heritage that this company, as far as Ford Motor Company, but also as far as the automotive industry. I will admit, why aren't people doing stuff in this industry? Ignorance. I came in thinking, hey, it's a car company. I never even thought about a car company. I never worked for a car company before. I never even thought about it. They came to me and I said, oh, wow, it sounds like a cool software problem. Let's go take a look at it. Holy crap. It's a really cool software problem. But that's why people aren't doing stuff in this space. It's complete ignorance. And so take heritage and take ownership of your heritage. Don't let the West Coast steal your thunder. Before Siri, there was Sync. Don't tell me what I can't do. It's just going to piss me off. I'm a software guy. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. As Gary said, fail fast, fail often. We in the software world learn how to do that. It's actually really cool. Danny and I, years ago, actually had a little presentation. We were going back and forth. And 3D printing has dramatically changed the landscape of the hardware business. NVIDIA actually has a nice little cool tagline. They're a software company. They build cool chips. And when you see these 3D chips, they fab them right there for 3D beforehand, so they can look at them. That means they can do 10 designs, and they can figure out which one they want, and they can go out and they can actually get it to work the first time. So it's an amazing sort of confluence, if you will, between the different things. Go big or go home. Don't come to me with little ideas. I'm sorry, I'm in the software world. There's no limit to what you can't do. Your gray matter is what I want. And last but not least, because we are software guys, code beats paper. Don't show up with PowerPoint. Don't show up with pictures. Don't show up with anything but code. If you can't code it, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. Last but not least, I'm a developer. So I am. These are some projects. There'll be slides afterwards. You can go find me. I welcome the challenge. I welcome to be. We looked out. Somebody actually came up to me and said, "Hey, you don't have enough stickers on your laptop." I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's kind of a thing with us developers. We put stickers with things we've done." My kid came up and he put a little Mickey Mouse on. I'm like, "Oh man, Mickey Mouse right next to the penguin." Like, damn, I got a mouse and a penguin now on my laptop. All right, really quickly, the high-tech automobile. This is really cool. This is kind of a really cool. I love talking to people about this because I'm not a car guy. I'm really not a car guy. Let me be very, very clear. I'm not. I know jack about the cars. I drive a Ford Explorer. That's one point I know. I know it has 4 wheels. That's the second point I know. And I know it takes unleaded gasoline. That's the third point. A couple weeks ago, I got taught my 4th point. Michigan State Police said it goes over 90 miles an hour. So 4 points of the car I know. That's about all I know. I know nothing else about it. And that's what's really kind of cool because this is a pretty complex world. But it's not unique to the car. And that's kind of the space I want to talk about the rest of the day. So let's go kind of level set. Space Shuttle, when it launched, 500,000 lines of code. For those of you who have not yet read the SEAM article, John does a great job of quoting these. 500,000 lines of code, late 70s, early 80s. About mid-90s, Boeing 777, last plane that Alan Mulally worked on before he came to Ford. Had about 3.5 to 4 million lines of code. Still unknown, it's a proprietary system. Our 2012 Ford Taurus had about 50 million lines of code. And our 2020 cars that we're looking at right now, the number of sensors we're looking at, et cetera, over 100 million lines of code. So for those of you that do software, that you understand it, that is an incredible amount of software. Which means it's an incredible amount of problems to be found and potential. This is why this is a huge issue. And it's pretty cool. Now what's driving this? The complexity is being driven by this little simple thing. On the far left-hand side, that's the radio of yesteryear. That's the radio before there was the 8-track tape. That's the radio, that's a simple dial with a little crystal, 87.9 up to like 106.7. Very simple. Any physics student could build it. That's your simple radio. But today, the customer is asking for something far more rich, far more diverse. And that complexity is what's driving the software. Little side note, people were talking about the kids. Steve was talking about his daughters. I had the pleasure of riding in a car a couple months ago, and I have twin girls, and they're in the back seat, and I'm driving not a Ford car. It doesn't really matter what it was, but it wasn't a Ford. And turn the radio on, and it's the last bit of a Katy Perry song, and oh my gosh, my girls are so, oh, Dad, go back. I want to hear it start all over again. I said to Kate, yeah, I can't do that, it's a radio. No, Dad, really, seriously, hit the back button. It's right there. Sweetheart, I love you so much. I got it. Kira, Dad, seriously, open up Pandora, put Katy Perry in the channel, it'll pop right up. We do this with Mom all the time. Guys, you don't understand. I get it. But this is what they call a radio. And what that means is you got to listen to what older people tell you to. Silence in the back seat for about 20 seconds, at which point Kate says, well, that's stupid. About 30 seconds thereafter, Kira says, don't worry, Daddy does software and he'll fix it. I almost cried. Oh, yeah, isn't that great? I was like, yeah, well, now they only want to ride in Daddy's car because Daddy's car can play Pandora correctly. Yeah, no, their expectation of what's in the vehicles is dramatically different than what even my expectation of what was in the vehicles. I just actually took ownership of my 2014 Explorer with some very cool technology. And we were talking about driving, self-driving. Holy cow, lane keeping. Anyone ever use lane keeping technology? Turn it on, active lane keeping. Basically, it's got cameras. It looks for lanes. Once it identifies it, it keeps you in between the lanes. Couple that with adaptive cruise control, keeping you up in front of the person. Dude, I drove for 25 miles on 405 coming north and kept my hands off the wheel. Of course, it's beeping at me. Keep your hands on the wheel. Put your hands on the wheel. And I kind of ignored that for a little bit. But oh my gosh, it was amazing. Fantastic. It's cool. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's some very cool stuff. Then I thought about who wrote the software, and I put my hands right back on the wheel. Our high-tech automobiles are exceptionally complex. Just a quick walk through time, 2010 versus 2013. Exact same car, the Ford Fusion. This is truly the exact same car as it refers to the physicalness. There might be a little top hat stuff, the fact that I even know the word top hat. I'm becoming a car guy, damn. It's roughly the same vehicle. Powertrain and all that's a little bit different, but it's the Ford Fusion. It's what we marketed to the customer. So as far as the customer's concerned, it's the same car. Years different. Yet it's dramatically different in terms of amount of software and amount of feature sets that are available to the customer. Dramatically different. And that's where software is the new enabler to the car. I have a habit of pissing off my fellow hardware guys by saying, if it weren't for me and my friends, you would be producing the world's most expensive paperweight. We did a little experiment. We took a car and we just basically fried every piece of electronic. We didn't really fry the electronic. We basically wiped all the software off. And then we gave the fob to the guy and we said, go, start it. I beg you to. I'll give you $1,000 if you can do it. He couldn't even open the car door. Tried to open it. Well, why is it not working? Dude, remote key entry's gone. No software. Oh, shit. Okay, tell you what. I'll unlock the car with a physical key. No problem. All right, now go start the car. Pushes the button. What the? Dude, no electronic start. Tell you what, I'll give you a physical key to start that puppy. Tries to turn it over. It's an electronic ignition control. We're done. Game's over. Software drives everything in this vehicle. And it's amazing. And it's interesting. And it's fun. Now, the question for you is, how do you get access? So, Ford has created something called AppLink. We recognize and acknowledge that you have this thing, this desire, this need, this want, this insistent view to say, hey, I want to extend this, I want to modify it, I want to customize it. Yet I'm a simple consumer. I'm not backed by SEMA, not backed by the CEA. So how do I do that? So we introduced a technology in 2010 called AppLink. And it was derived from our systems called from Sync. Sync was introduced in 2007. It was a response from Ford recognizing and acknowledging that you're bringing these bring-in devices. People are bringing devices into the car. And in so doing, they're creating distraction opportunities. So the idea was to better allow a customer to control the bring-in device. And it was simple stuff, MP3s, simple phone calls, simple text, very simple stuff. And then the consumer industry, damn them, got really smart and started putting smarter things on these things. And pretty soon it wasn't just simple phone calls and simple emails, it was apps. It was not necessarily Flappy Birds, but it was Pandora, Spotify, TuneIn. It was radio stuff. It was navigation stuff. And holy cow, it was distracting. And so Ford said, tell you what, we'll up the game. And so they created AppLink. Simply put, it's a set of software. It's APIs. We wrap the head unit of a vehicle. Buttons, dials, menus, any resource, that's a software term, any resource that's physically in the car, we wrap it and we expose an API. And we allow you to call those APIs and thus intersect and interact with the car. That's what we do. Now, what do we start with? Well, we started with the really simple stuff, music and all that. And then we said, now let's move up to navigation. Now let's move up to other apps. Let's move up to music. Let's move up to communications. Oh my gosh, let's actually give you vehicle control. Remote start, remote unlock, remote data, vehicle data. And so AppLinks evolved, just like a software. It is software, version 1, version 1.1, version 2, version 2.1, version 3. Now, in order to support the idea that, hey, the industry is moving with us, one of the biggest pains in the asses for software developers is something called fragmentation. We hate it. It absolutely pisses us off. It is so difficult to deal with it because guess what? At the end of the day, while it's not physical, my piece of bits and collection is a product, and I have to test it and verify it. Well, when you guys mess with me on all these different interfaces, that means I have to have X number of products, which means I have to have X number of testing efforts, and that goes to my bottom line. So Ford recognized that, and this past CES, actually CES 2013, Paul Mascarenhas stood on stage, CTO of Ford Motor Company, and spoke for 1 hour, 1 whole hour, 60 minutes. He is a 32-year veteran of Ford Motor Company and never once spoke about car, engine, wheels, torque, structure. The entire hour was software. Our prep time was a lot of prep time, mind you. But anyways, he spoke for an hour on software. And he ended the session by saying, Ford Motor Company for 110 years has been customer-focused and driven, and we will remain that way. But with this year, and this year moving forward, we're now a software company as well, and we take it seriously. We are developer-focused. And one of our gifts to the industry was say, hey, we recognize and acknowledge fragmentation sucks. Let's solve it. So we took the entirety of AppLink, head unit, proxies, everything, put the whole lot together, and we released it in open source to the community. And then we went public and said, not only are we going to release it publicly, but we're going to work with it in public. So we put an entire brand promise behind it. We will publish and work in this space publicly. We will code commit publicly. You will see us code commit publicly. You will see us pull the code publicly. You will see us put that code publicly into our vehicles and publicly state that that code is in our vehicles so that you as a developer can make a commitment to you and your customers and your companies that what we have, code beats paper, our real code is the real code you would integrate. And it's working. Slowly, but it's working. Third-party companies are picking it up. First-tier OEM companies are picking it up. The OEMs themselves are struggling. How could Ford be so magnanimous? They don't understand the open source model. We acknowledge and recognize this is really cool. We acknowledge and recognize that connectivity is really neat, but we also acknowledge and recognize the bigger issue. The bigger issue is we want to sell cars. We know our customers want to buy cars where connectivity works. This is going to help sell more cars because customers want our cars first. Now, how's that actually going to happen? Something we're calling Ford First. It's our developer program. Again, we're a bunch of software guys. We know what it takes to build software. And what it takes is a rich, vibrant background and support function to actually do that. So if you go to developerford.com, you'll actually find all the toolkits you need. You'll find your SDKs, your code snippets. You'll find examples. You'll find how to download it. You'll find how-tos. You'll find the pretty pictures of myself and Scott over in the corner and others talking to you about, hey, here's what you need to do and here's how you have to work. Here are the vehicles that this is in. Call us, ask us questions, work with us. So the brand promise for us to any brand, why we do this? We want to sell cars. That's what we want to do, nothing more. We want to sell cars. But we recognize and acknowledge that for that to work, it must work with GM. Your Pandora app, your TuneIn, your Spotify, your MLB app must work with GM. Must. It's not just a Ford world. We know that. So our brand promise to the developers is we'll help you. And in so doing it, we're going to get Ford first, and therefore we're going to get a little bit of market share and a little bit of window in the market to win. Now, what this means and where does this go with? I want to just quickly show this to some people. We're going to talk about this.
So a hackathon is when a bunch of developers get together and and see what they can deliver in a sprint. And so in this case, a 24-hour marathon. So here we have Ford developers and Baidu developers taking the best of both teams and seeing what they can deliver using both capabilities.
这样的就是我之前我朋友刚买了辆福特的车，然后里面就有 App Link， 然后有一次我们从那个三藩开到 LA 的时候，就是还是晚上开，还是7个小时，然后呢他就不断跟我说你赶紧跟我说话，赶紧跟我说话，所以我觉得其实司机他在开那个路的，就是开车的过程中还是很需要那个提高注意力的，所以我才想说做这么一个应用，在他一个人开的时候，然后也可以让他集中注意力。
其实是真实世界的，只不过我们会把真实世界里面的东西加入一些虚拟的物品在里面去。
首先，福特是一家科技公司，我们没有把自己单纯的看作是一家汽车公司，我们已经开始在想怎么样把云端的这些服务、互联网上面这些应用带到车里面。能够给用户提供一个无缝的一个体验。
我们只是在百度的服务和我们的 driver 之间做了一个桥梁，就是我们通过语音控制车上，还有就是手机上所有的这些 apps。而且我觉得这个东西的话，是我们的一个相当于是我们的一个 baby， 我们把它从小婴儿一直变到一个可以走路的一个孩子。梦想变成现实。
那么我们实际上应用了福特的这个4个平台，解放了驾驶员他的双手，然后呢应用了百度地图，解放了驾驶员他的大脑。
虽然是24小时，可能会有点累，但是会很过瘾。
These teams have spent the last 24 hours nonstop of creating these new apps. And what it did for me, it was not only fun because they were having fun, but it opened my imagination as to what's possible with our apps within our vehicles. I'm just really excited to be here. It's been a fantastic morning.
So for those of you that don't know who Baidu is Google in China. Robin Li is the founder. He's 42 years old. He actually took a master's and PhD in SUNY in Buffalo, New York. He has 4 patents. They are the basis of what Baidu is. They literally have an entire roadmap that looks as if it were from Sergey and Larry. And they have well over 650 million users, Chinese users around the world. So we approached them about doing something like this. And what they have are cloud services. So the woman that you saw talking about, the single driver, she finally won. What she did is when she gets in the car, you actually indicate to the car, you say you launch it. It says, keep me awake. It's in Chinese, don't know what that is. But anyways, keep me awake. You launch it, indicate that you're a single driver. And they're like, great. And there's a cloud application, and it just randomly throw music your way. It'll turn your station on and off. It'll jack with your windows. It'll jack with noise. And it basically forces you to be startled on an often basis. That was what her idea was. It became a little too concerning for distraction. And she refined it, and so now it's just a question and answer. You have to be able to ask questions. So have anyone here ever heard of Google Glass? No, sorry, Google Goggles, not Google Glass, Google Goggles. So engineer one night, drunk as a skunk, and sent a note that he probably shouldn't have sent, said, hey, there's a new idea here, Google Goggles. So it basically it launches at hours that you would normally be drinking, and you have to answer math questions in an increasingly complexity way, 10 of them, and a window opens for a period of 15 minutes for you to send email, and then the window closes, and you have to restart the idea by asking it an additional 10 questions. So she answered the same idea. Baidu brought it over, and they said, great, they'll put questions out there. And if you get the answers wrong, it engages with you. That was all about trying to keep awake. So she won $50,000, a Ford Focus, and her app's going to be featured in China. So we're software guys, but we're not just software guys, we're fun guys. I'll just leave this up here quickly for you guys to have a read. All right. I end my conversations for the last 2 years with this same quote: "We can evade reality, but we cannot evade we cannot evade the consequences of evading reality." Software's coming. It's coming hard. It's coming fast. People want to mod. People want to move. Ford Motor Company has an obligation and responsibility both to its customers and to the community at large to make that happen and to do it safely. In short, we're a software company, and we welcome you to come code with us. Thank you.